Do not get used to winning. Do not get used to losing. Clean sheets, they come and go. The attack can't score a single goal against Rayo Vallecano, but equally capable of putting 4 past FC Barcelona. Then they conceded 3 and scored 0 in the second leg against FC Barcelona. They have failed to keep a clean sheet in every single Champions League match this season. And they're still alive. You know, Atleti, and maybe Simeone by extension, or vice versa, I guess, but that reputation of them being defensive-minded, combative.
Nothing really to phone home about. They do as they've always done over recent years. It's ugly, it's boring.
Yeah, that's not really true anymore. That take is incredibly dated, partially because, full transparency and fairness to Shaka Hislop, the guy who said that take was from a few years ago. But as a creator, I see a lot of comments on my videos, and that take of Atleti still being a boring defensive team lives on. But Atletico haven't really played like that, at least regularly, for some time now. Regularly being the key, because the Atletico Madrid that you once knew is gone. And the current revolution in how they play, with all the topsy-turvy results that go with it, well, they're trying to turn it into an evolution. As Simeone himself said in August at the beginning of the season, quote, "Changes are always good as long as they respond to what is needed. You always have to evolve. The team must continue to grow at the same pace as the club." Funny he said that because just a few months later, the club grew through having new majority stakeholders. Apollo Sports Capital. These new majority shareholders purchased a 55% stake in Atletico Madrid for an estimated 2.5 billion euros. And Apollo are considered to be one of the most sophisticated capital allocators in the world, according to Michael Broughton of the True Business of Sports, linked below, by the way. Definitely give it a read. Now, initially, Atleti and Apollo, who have an asset portfolio of about 840 billion US dollars, insane money, were in conversations to invest simply in the Ciudad del Deporte, or sports city that Atleti wants to build adjacent to the Metropolitano, a project that will cost an estimated 800 million euros. However, after a while, Apollo saw the value in becoming more than just partners and adding Atletico to their sports ventures, to their portfolio. With the promise of spending a lot of money on reinforcements, that was enough to convince Matteo Alemany to join Atleti as their director of football in October. He joined about a month before it was announced that Apollo would purchase a majority stake in the club. Apollo have made their ambitions clear. Increase the value of Atletico Madrid by bringing in more valuable players, invest in the infrastructure of the club, grow the brand through those players' reputations, as well as their own expertise and experience from other ventures that can help Atleti to grow in markets worldwide. Also, winning things is always a great way to get people to support your club. Of course, the expectation is that through careful planning and investment, this will be a natural byproduct, the winning, that is. Even before their involvement was 100% confirmed, Atleti began their changing of the squad. In the summer alone, they brought in 11 players, sold 5, including a favorite like Angel Correa, and other familiar names left for free or on loan. Your Thomas Lemars, Rodrigo de Pauls, Espilicuetas, Witzels, Sauls, a lot of change at Atleti. And again, that was just in the summer. 3 more signings in January to go with 3 more sales. It's been all change, all turnover, all the time, and that has affected their results as one would expect, right? Look at their starting lineup from their second leg win over Club Brugge as an example. 5 of the 11 players in their starting 11 arrived this season, but the thing is, they won. At the beginning of the season, Atleti failed to get a win in their opening 3 La Liga fixtures, a 2-1 loss to Espanyol and 1-1 draws with Elche and Deportivo Alavés. Not exactly the giants of La Liga through their recent performances, and looking at their starting lineups at Atleti's, there was often 4, 5, sometimes 6 new arrivals, so the roller coaster makes sense when there's new operators, if you know what I mean. But it's not just the new faces. The composition of Atletico's squad is different now as well. Here's Simeone saying after their latest Club Brugge match, quote, "Many new players arrived last season and this season again, and reinventing ourselves is never easy. We've lots of attacking players whose strengths are going forward. The team evolved in this way." There have absolutely been moments of stagnation in the attack, Rayo Vallecano, for example, but in spite of the new faces, Atleti have scored the exact same amount of goals in La Liga as last season. The difference then in the 5 points that separate this season from last season's performance after 26 matches, the defensive record, which has leaked 7 more goals in La Liga. As mentioned in the intro, their defensive woes go beyond just La Liga and are apparent in the Champions League as well. 0 clean sheets in the league phase. They scored 17 goals and conceded 15. When would you ever have expected that of an Atleti side a few years ago? They follow that up with a 7-4 aggregate win over Club Brugge, 11 goals, the highest combined aggregate score that Atleti have been a part of since Diego Simeone has been with Atleti. And he's been there for 15 years now. The other tie that came closest, their 5-4 aggregate loss to Borussia Dortmund in 2024. Again, speaking after Atleti overcame Club Brugge, Simeone said, quote, "We need to get back our defensive side as we're far from where we want to be. We're hoping to get back that balance we always look for." The back line has been a bit of a sore area among supporters. Obviously, 0 clean sheets in 10 Champions League matches is absolutely unbelievable for a club that was formerly so closely associated with a, scrappy 1-0 rinse and repeat. There's a feeling that Santi Giménez may be at the end of his cycle with the club, or at the very least nearing the end of it. Some have questioned Robin Lenormand's form of late. I personally would expect Lenormand to stay. Giménez is another question. Ruggeri, Pubil, and David Hansko all arrived last summer, and you can believe there will be further arrivals next summer given the newfound financial strength that Atleti now wield. Whoa, my light went out again. Yeah, the financial strength that Atleti now wield since Apollo's ownership was expected to kick off during this financial quarter, the first financial quarter of 2026. However, you can't speak about Atleti at this time without the sort of melancholic topic of the future of a living legend at the club, Antoine Griezmann. I'm not even an Atleti supporter. You all know who I support, but even I get a bit of a knot in my stomach when I think of the fact that Griezmann could be leaving. Yes, there was the unfortunate 2 years that he spent in Barcelona, in which he absolutely will have regrets in how that move was executed and how he hurt the Atleti supporters, betrayed them. But his departure from Atletico Madrid at this specific point in time, it's almost symbolic of their evolution, no? Because you simply cannot speak about the Diego Simeone era of Atletico Madrid without speaking of Antoine Griezmann. He's the club's all-time top scorer by a long shot. He's 4th all-time when it comes to appearances, 2nd only to Koke when it comes to assists. While Diego Simeone is the mastermind behind lifting Atletico to places that their supporters never dreamed of prior to his arrival as head coach, Antoine Griezmann played a large role in actually making it possible and using his own celebrity, if you will, to a certain extent, to grow Atletico's reputation around the globe. Since his return, as he had always done, he has been willing to operate in whichever role is asked of him, to do whatever kind of work is asked of him. Pressing, making clearances and tackles from inside Atletico's defensive third, setting up teammates, scoring himself. When people look back on the Simeone era of Atletico Madrid, he and perhaps Koke, though he's not as famous a name, but Griezmann will likely be the player people associate with this era. Or Diego Godin. But still, his departure, which could come in 1 month, it could come in 3 or 4 months, is definitely not only a sad moment in some ways, but symbolic of that changing face of Atletico Madrid, a changing of eras. But the one constant through all of this, even through the annual speculation over his future with the club always cropping up, El Cholo. Whether they're playing the style that put them on the map, so to speak, or evolving into something new Simeone has, and who knows, seemingly may always be on the touchline for Atletico. As Atletico Madrid CEO Miguel Ángel Gilmarín has said a few years ago, quote, "I would love to not live in the post-Simeone era at Atletico, and I'm going to do the impossible for it, at least myself. But obviously, one day it will come. When it comes, I repeat to you, I hope I won't be there." I hold my hand up and say that I've questioned Simeone in the past before. Look, If Atleti don't win anything this season, it will be his longest stretch at the club without a single piece of silverware. But if anyone deserves a chance to help this club evolve into something new, it's the man who helped them get to a position where they are playing in the Champions League regularly. The man who won titles that jaded supporters didn't think were even possible, transformed them into Champions League regulars. His contributions led Atletico to a 2.5 million euro valuation for 55% of the club's shares. Again, something that sounded impossible in the pre-Simeone era. So let's see what they become when El Cholo has a squad built to his liking. Let's see how he'll change Atleti's identity once again. Guys, thanks as always for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, you know what to do to help the channel. It would mean a lot if you did. And I will see you in a couple of days for another video. Take care.